Hey guys, Prowl 1701, and we're back to talk about some Doctor Who today. And we are going to be continuing the series where I am ranking all of Doctor Who from worst to best. Now, this includes all of the TV show, and some of the expanded material, and even a few fan projects as well. Now, in total, there are 426 entries on this list. Today, since this is a video series, we're going to be talking about number 250 through 226. So, getting up there in the middle of the list, the kind of middle of the road stories, some better than others here. As they get better, as we count them down. Naturally, that's the point of having a list. So, I'm really excited about getting started here. We're going to start with number 250. And this is the Big Finish story, The Wrong Doctors, which has the 6th Doctor in it, and the 6th Doctor in it, and maybe another 6th Doctor in it. There's multiple 6th Doctors running around in this one, because he's at different points in his time stream, like one of them wears the blue outfit, for example. And it has Mel in it, and it's basically the Doctor trying to drop Mel back off in Perryville, so that the younger version of him can meet her for the first time, and then shenanigans ensue. Although, I believe Mel does get to use some of her actual computer skills she's supposed to have in this. I don't remember clearly this one. It's been a while since I listened to it, but I did like it. I wonder if this is one of Chris's. I can't remember if Chris wrote this one. But it is really enjoyable, and you'd think it could get difficult telling the 6 Doctors apart, again, being an audio. But it's actually pretty easy to keep up with which one is more the younger one and which one is the older one. And I feel like there might be a third one in there as well. But it's actually fairly easy to tell them apart, which had been a concern of mine, but it was actually much easier than I remember. I did really, excuse me, I did really enjoy this one and recommend it if you hadn't listened to it. And if you're a Colin Baker fan. Next on the list is Daleks in Manhattan and Evolution of the Daleks. Now, I am not going to sit here and try to tell you that this is an S-tier story, because it isn't. It's not even an A-tier story, but it's a solid C, excuse me, low B, but I do enjoy it. Again, I like Series 3 of modern Doctor Who a lot. I think the Dalek voices are really good. I like that it's basically set during the Depression, about why the Empire State Building was built. I think it's got a really good guest cast, including Andrew Garfield in it. The guy who plays the leader of the town, I really like him a lot too. He's really good. David Tennant's putting in a good performance. Freema's putting in a good performance. I really like the kind of ditzy blonde type. The one who's looking for, was it Laszlo? She's good. Laszlo's good in his pig makeup. And then I like the story itself, the idea of a group of Daleks that their main job is to think outside the box, even if it's in a way that they normally wouldn't ever do. So I rather enjoyed that. The human Dalek was an interesting idea, but I love the fact that we know that's never going to work, and that the other Daleks do turn on him and eventually kill him, because that's what the Daleks would do. That's interesting. And it's not perfect, like, seriously, the lightning causing Time Lord DNA to filter in? Pressing X to doubt here. But sure, why not? Also, how come the Doctor doesn't just keep a spare Sonic on him? Why does he only have one? I've got my Sonic. I've dropped it. We're doomed. Oh, no, never mind. Got the spare. Always have a spare Sonic. If I was the showrunner of Doctor Who, my motto would be have a spare Sonic. So if something happens, he could... If you have that strong of a tool, why would you not have a spare? Next on the list is The Savages. And I think this is this high because I do like the animation a lot. I've watched the Telesnap Recon. It's okay. It's all right, but it wouldn't be this high. I like the animation. I like the liberties taken with the animation. I like how it goes beyond what the original production could do. I like some of the updated effects they couldn't have done back then. The sets look better. I've watched the black and white and the color version of the animation. They both look good. I don't know if I have a preference between them. I enjoy both of them. And I like the story, just the idea of, you know, it really is, again, how even Doctor Who could get political and talk about issues of the time, but Classic Who was good without beating you over the head with it. Now, see, people get mistaken. People talk about, you know, a lot of people online will say, well, Classic Doctor Who was more subtle and Modern Who's not, when they're not using the right terminology. Classic Doctor Who wasn't always subtle, but it was nuanced. And the difference between sometimes in Modern Who, not always in Modern Who, but sometimes in Modern Who, and what Classic Who did is that Classic Who never treated the audience like they were stupid. Even if they weren't being subtle, like the Green Death, or the Savages, honestly. They knew they could give you the tools without spelling it out for you. They assumed their audience, even their child audience, was smart enough to pick up the lessons they were putting out. And keep in mind, Doctor Who was still a kid's show at this time. Much like how Galaxy 4 was teaching the lesson of not judging a book by its cover, we have it addressing the dangers of segregation, the dangers of racism, even. And it's doing it in a way that it knows that even the children are intelligent enough to figure it out. It's not lecturing to them. It's not beating them over the head with it. It is not assuming they're stupid and has to have everything spelled out for them. That is the difference between Modern Who, when it does it badly, which it doesn't always do, and Classic Doctor Who. That is the difference, the nuance. And I really like when the main, I don't want to say bad guy, but the main, maybe somewhat antagonist, Jaeger or whatever his name is, when, excuse me, when he absorbs kind of the Doctor's energy and he starts adapting some of the first Doctor's personality quirks and voice, he does a really good job of that. You can tell just from the voice. He really does. And I'm willing to bet he would physically, in the original production, adopted some of his mannerisms too. I wish we had some footage of that. The animation does a good job with it, but his imitation of the voice and the speech pattern is really enjoyable. And I like the ending of it, although you kind of figured they could have just rebuilt the room. But again, but with Steven there to lead them, maybe he's showing them this about it. It's weird to overthrow a whole society that way. But again, 60s kid show. But it is enjoyable, and I do have to give credit to the animation for that. I did enjoy the animation on this one. Next on the list is the Pandorica Opens and the Big Bang. This is a good one. I like it. It's busy. It's really busy. And I especially love I love the speech in Stonehenge when the Doctor's like, well, you're sitting up there in all your silly little spaceships with your silly little guns. Hats off to Matt Smith. He did a great job with that speech. I don't quite understand why when him and River are spinning around fighting the silence, he's just using the sonic. What is he doing exactly? I know she's shooting them, but he's just, I'm helping. I mean, it even addresses that, but it doesn't stop the fact it's happening. What are you going to do, assemble a cabinet at them? So that, I don't... Maybe if he used the sonic and it somehow split her laser into multiple beams, like she fired one shot and he split it into like 5 shots somehow with the sonic. I don't know how sonics would do that, but it's, it's a sci-fi show. We could cheat a little. No, that's one of the old ones. Losing my train of thought there. But I enjoy it, especially the timey-wimey of the Big Bang. There's a lot of timey-wiminess going on. But Stephen Moffat's really good at that. Stephen Moffat, better than anyone, understands the Doctor is a time traveler. And that sometimes cause and effect don't go in that order. You can have the effect before the cause because he's a time traveler. And he utilizes that to really good effect in this story. And I like how it ties in with that one scene from Flesh and Stone that we thought was an error with his jacket, and it actually explains that. That's really clever. I enjoyed this one. Is it a little overly complicated? Yes. Oh, I also love the twist with the Autons. I didn't see that coming. When Rory comes back, I did not realize the Romans were Autons. That's awesome. It was great to see the Autons back. Next on the list is Survival, the final classic Doctor Who story in the classic show proper. Survival is okay. I think it gets a little too much credit because it is the final story. It's enjoyable. I think that the actual story is pretty sound. I think Anthony Ainley is probably putting in his best performance as the Master. He's great in this story. I love when he's able to play it this serious. I love Seven and the Master together, and I wish we'd gotten more stories in the show of Seven and the Master together, because if there's anyone that can go up toe-to-toe with the Master, it's Seven. Good performances from McCoy here, except for when he goes into that fake voice a couple times. That fake voice when he yells, "If we, fight like animals, we die." That's a little... Other than that, he's doing good stuff here. Some of the teenage actors don't do much for me, especially the one kid, the one that pretty much ends up losing himself. It's a little... Let's send him back to acting school. And that might not be his fault. That could be the director. I don't know what it is. It's just not quite working for me. Also, the people in the cat suits don't work for me. And even the original writer, she didn't intend on that to be there either. You didn't want that Puss in Boots look, but that's kind of what you got, and I do hold that against it. I do love the final speech at the end, though. That was a good speech and a good way to close out Classic Who. Next on the list is Storm Warning, which I believe was the first 8th Doctor audio. I like this one a lot. It seems really long. Like, my memory of it is that it's really long, but still good. With the Doctor on... I can't remember if it's a Zeppelin or something like a Zeppelin. It's an actual real ship like the RX-101 or something like that. I didn't know anything about this. That's a good thing. That's when you know you got some good Doctor Who. When the Doctor Who story is happening during an actual kind of event or place that happened, And so you actually go look it up. It's like Demons of the Punjab with Partition. I didn't know about that, so I got to look it up and read about it. That was fascinating to me. And I kind of did the same thing here. I looked it up and read about the disaster and how obviously Charlie was supposed to die in the disaster and she didn't. I think that causes problems later. And then I liked a lot of the other characters in there too. One of the other guys in it, one of the other characters, I liked him a lot. I can't remember if he ended up dying or not, but I remember really liking him a lot. And then you had kind of one of the main antagonists you couldn't trust. I remember I liked the actor performing him. Somebody told me recently that Gareth Thomas is in this, who's of course Blake from Blake 7. And that's interesting. I'm not sure who he plays in it because I listened to Storm Warning before I started watching Blake 7. But that's interesting to know he was in it. I love the knowledge that Gareth Thomas was involved with Doctor Who in some way before he passed. That's cool. I really liked this one. I don't remember all the story beats. I remember aliens and stuff like that at some point. But I remember really enjoying it. I know I raved about it in my review. Next on the list is the Daleks, which might be lower than some people would have it, but of course it's probably higher than some people thought I would have it. The original Daleks from 1963, it's just a little slow for me. The pacing, I know you're not supposed to watch all 7 parts at once, and I know it's the first Dalek story. They haven't been revived yet. And if I had watched it in 1963, 1964, I probably could have rolled with that better. But I think most people who are watching the Daleks, it's not their first Dalek story. They're going back and watching the Daleks. So they've seen other Dalek stories, whether they started with Classic Who later, whether they started with Modern Who, they're going back to watch the Daleks because it's the first Dalek story. And you're more used to some of the things in future Dalek stories that aren't necessarily present here. Not even hearing them say exterminate. And again, 7 parts. It drags to me. Some 7-parters I can get through fine. I love Inferno. It's perfect at 7 parts. And even Ambassadors of Death and Silurians, which we haven't gotten to on this list yet, at 7 parts, I can tolerate better than this. This just drags. Especially that one episode in the cave that takes, like the whole episode. Just speed it up a bit. I prefer the colorized version, edited version of the Daleks, which is also on this list, and higher. But I still like the episode. I enjoy it. It introduces an iconic villain, not just in Doctor Who, but in sci-fi in general. Excellent design. I like the Thals. I hate that the modern series have forgot the Thals exist. I wish it would address that. And I would love to go back and visit the Thals and the Daleks in their war at some point. Next on the list is Maldron Undead. Again, just kind of a middle-of-the-road story for me. It's great to see the Brig back. It's always great to have Nicholas Courtney back. I don't know if I quite buy him as a retired teacher this early. Maybe if it had been set like 10 years later or something. And of course it is part of the unit dating controversy as well. But I like that we not only have a brigadier, we have two brigadiers. And I like the distinction in how they look, even how they dress, showing 1977's, where his state of mind is, the brigadier, versus where his state of mind is in 1983, where he's been retired for a bit and he's a little more relaxed. Nicholas Courtney's great in this. I love the set design, especially for Maldron's ship. The fact it doesn't look like a ship, it looks more like a hotel. In a similar way, I love the set design of Robots of Death. I think it's done really well here to give it a more comfort feel. Like, you kind of get the impression that Maldron and his crew, they all come across as Nepo babies to me. And it was their arrogance that got them in this situation, that they were well off, wealthy, living in luxury, but they needed more. It's like finding that person who's born being a millionaire and they've got that hunger to do more because they've already had everything handed to them, with a silver spoon on a silver platter. And so they were trying to basically be gods, and that's how they ended up in this situation. I don't like the makeup design or the costume design on Maldron and his crew. First off, those clothes look goofy. Whoever thought that up, it was a terrible idea. And the stuff on their heads, I get why they did that, to give them that undead effect, but I just find it, I don't even like to look at it. I don't like to look at it. That was a terrible decision. I don't like it. And it's one of the things that puts me off the episode. Great introduction to Turlough. I like Turlough as a character because he's devious. You just never know if you can fully trust him. And it's great to have the Black Guardian back. Love Valentine in the role. He's just that voice. That voice is so amazing. He's so good in that role. I don't quite know why he has a bird on his head now. But Valentine's great. I love that. So Maldron Undead is just kind of middle of the road. Has things I like, has things I don't. The story itself, Next on the list is Mission to Magnus, which is part of the Lost Season 23. What the original Season 23 was going to be, and of course it was going to bring back the Ice Warriors. I've read the novelization. Really enjoyed it. Really, really liked it. It feels longer than it is, but in a good way. I like the fact that I felt like, I want to say I felt like I got my money's worth out of it, but it was actually sent to me. I'm pretty sure that's one of the books Flyattractor sent me. And it's a really good read. That's why it's ranked where it is. I really enjoyed it. I really wish, more so than the Nightmare Fair, which was lower on the list, I more so really wish this episode would have gotten made. Now, I don't know how it would have been executed, whether they would have pulled it off or not, but I certainly enjoyed the novelization of it. Next on the list is The Maltese Penguin, which is a Big Finish story which has Frobisher in it, who is the Doctor's companion. Right now, he's not traveling with the Doctor. This is kind of, he's a detective. This is kind of like a old 1920s noir story, The Maltese Penguin, which of course the title is paying homage to, which I don't mind here. I don't like when Doctor Who titles homage or parody other Doctor Who titles, but something like this, where it's doing another piece of media or another piece of fiction, I'm fine with. So the Maltese Penguin title fits, really. So he's that kind of, he's looking at you, kid, or Sam Spade type, detective. But he's a penguin, a shape-shifting penguin. I love Frobisher. The guy who voices Frobisher is definitely one of the reasons I love Frobisher. He's just perfect. He's perfect in that role as Frobisher. Now, the Sixth Doctor does show up a couple times, and Colin's great in it. And they have some funny exchanges. There's definitely a lot of humor in this. Like, the dame that comes in to hire him, you don't know if you can ever trust her or not. It's funny, it's fun, it gets that noir 1920s detective gumshoe feeling really well. Definitely one of the hits for me in Big Finish, because Big Finish is hit or miss, but this one's a lot of fun. Next on the list is the Space Museum, one of the most underrated stories from classic Doctor Who. The general opinion of it seems to be, and once again, I can never remember if this is a four-parter. I've only watched the Museum. I keep wanting to say the Space Pirates. I've only watched the Space Museum once, but I can't remember if it's a four-parter or a six-parter. I think it's a four-parter. And the general consensus seems to be that episode 1's really good, and then the rest of the episodes are not really that great, and they get uninteresting. I don't find this to be the case. I do think episode 1 is miles better. But it's like, most people think episode 1 is here, and then the rest is here. I think episode 1 is here, and then the rest is just average. Because the first episode is quite fascinating, with the TARDIS slipping a time track, and I'd love to see something like that happen again. And seeing what happens to themselves in the future if they don't alter the future. And seeing where they basically become display pieces. And them having to, first off, the mystery of what's going on. And nobody seeing them and them not leaving tracks in the sand. Them seeing that, figuring out the situation. And then, of course, the end of the episode, slipping back into their reality before those events happen. And then having to find a way to alter events so they don't end up like that. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the rest of the story just becomes a more standard Doctor Who story, a more standard fare. That doesn't mean it's bad, it just means it's standard. It's average, C tier. So while I think that first episode is probably S tier, the rest of it is C tier. And yes, that is a huge drop-off in quality, but that's not saying it's like E tier, F tier, arachnids in the UK, kill the moon crap. It's not. It's just average. It's an average story. It's fine. I still like some of the things they do in that. Like some of the aliens, their eyebrows being done a little different to show that they're not human, that they are aliens. I believe that their dialect is changed up slightly. I might be misremembering that, but I feel like their dialect's a little different than how humans talk. And I love when they do that, kind of like the Kangs in Paradise Towers. I like how they have their own manner of speak a bit. How they started using unalive even before it became a modern way to talk in our own lexicon language. That's interesting. And then I also like the Doctor hiding in the Dalek. I have fun with them. That's funny. And then the scene when the Doctor's on the ground and they think he's unconscious, and one guy goes off, the other one's like, oh, I'll watch over him, and you just see the Doctor look up. And then it cuts away. When it cuts back, you see the guy's been tied up. So the first Doctor, when the, off screen, woke up and subdued the guy and tied him up and everything. It's that reminder that the first Doctor's not just a thinker. He can be a fighter. He likes to engage in some fisticuffs every now and then. And I love that. I absolutely love that bit. So there are definitely moments in the rest of Space Museum that are good. I would call the rest of it C tier. Probably high C tier. Low B tier. Probably C tier. And that first episode, S tier. But the rest, the episodes 2, 3, and 4 are still enjoyable. I like them. I'm looking forward to rewatching Space Museum at some point. Next on the list is The Massacre. And it's a testament to how good the story is that it's this high, considering not only is it completely missing, but there's not really any telesnaps. It's more production stills. That being said, I think one of the reasons that's this high is the novelization, because the novelization just is better, especially having read the novelization first. Now, the novelization is written by the same guy who wrote the story for the televised version, but he's basing his novelization on some of his earlier drafts, whereas it went through heavy rewrites to accommodate different things. Like, for instance, Hartnell is on a holiday during either episode 2 or 3, and and of course, timing concerns, budget concerns, stuff had to be stripped out. So it's weird going from the novelization where all of this stuff happens, especially the Doctor and the Abbot, who of course look exactly the same, which is not a trope I like in Doctor Who, but it's there. There's various points in the story where the Doctor is impersonating the Abbot, and they just keep barely missing each other. And they do actually meet each other at the end, which is basically cut out of the TV version. They do look alike, and it causes problems and confusion, especially with Stephen, who's the only companion here. We get introduced to Dodo at the end. But they, the Doctor's never actively pretending to be him. Or if it is, it never really states it. That's more the novelization. Now, again, I watched the recon, and it was enjoyable. Now, if it wasn't for the novel, this would be placed lower, but it wouldn't be placed, like, close to the bottom. It's still an enjoyable recon. I still enjoyed listening to it. I like the introduction to Dodo. The Doctor's speech in episode 4 is phenomenal. I always heard how good that speech is and why people wanted episode 4 recovered so they could see it. It is a great speech. It's truly one of those great speeches, rivaling his 10th planet speech. I know his 10th planet, not his 10th planet speech, his Dalek invasion of Earth speech. Most of the time, if people are citing like the key moment for each Doctor, I think for the first Doctor, it's arguably his Dalek invasion of Earth speech when that he says to Susan. But I think if the Massacre episode 4 was intact and existed, I think this would be in strong running up against it for his number 1 speech because it's that good. But again, I maintain the novelization is better. It's more fleshed out. It doesn't have to deal with time constraints or budget constraints. It's just telling a story that your imagination cooks up in your head. Well, pictures in your head. And it's more enjoyable to me. It's, some of the Target novels are very close to the episodes. They're not that different. But you have some of the Target novels that are very different, actually. They have a very different feel to them. The Mythmakers is like that. I'm trying to think of another one off the top of my head. It wasn't clicking in my head. There's another one. The same guy who wrote The Mythmakers. Another one of his is like that. I think Cotton, what's his name? Is it Donald Cotton? My mind's going. I think a lot of his novelizations are quite a bit different. Next on the list is Terror of the Vervoids. I enjoy this, especially the trial-less version that's on the box set with the updated effects, which definitely factors into its placing. I enjoy this story. I mean, the worst thing about the story for me is that unfortunate costume problem with the mask, because once you see it, you just can't unsee it, and every time I watch the story, it's just there right in front of you, and there is no way that was done on accident. I don't know how they got past the censors with that. There's no way that was done on accident. But I like the story itself. It has some dumb moments, like them not having a way to stop these plant things, the plant things getting freed so easily. The woman who, Honor Blackman, is that her name? She's great in this, by the way, performance-wise, but the way she died just seems kind of... The Doctor's even like, no, don't. Maybe he should have tried a little harder. Like, really? No, don't. Let me grab your arm and pull you back here. Because she just talks to him and they kill her, and I'm like, well, that's a waste of her character. I mean, come on. She's a Bond girl. She deserves better than this. But I do like the guest cast. I do like some of the twists and turns. There's some B plots going on in this. One guy's disguised as another alien. I like how the Doctor figures it out because he didn't use his thing. That's really neat. So you got traders and plot twists going on, so it's not just the main story. It's very enjoyable. Also, I like the set design of the ship. And yeah, Mel's a little annoying in this, but that's not Bonnie's fault. I do enjoy the story over. Oh, also, I love the fact the captain seems so annoyed the Doctor's there, because the captain knows the Doctor. So as soon as the Doctor shows up, the captain's just like, ah, crap. Ah, crap, not you again. That's amusing to me. That's funny to me. And then as soon as things start going wrong, he's like, yep, the Doctor's here already. That's funny. Next on the list is A Tiny Thousand Wings, which is the first part of the Klein trilogy, which is a Big Finish audio, set of stories, although there are technically 4 stories in it. I like this one. A Tiny Thousand Wings is dangerous and deadly with killer insects. And of course, it has Klein in it. I like Klein as a character, both versions of her, really. I think the actress playing her nails the role well. I really like Seven in this story. There's one time one of the side characters gets killed, and I knew they were getting killed, because it's kind of that, well, I'm going to go over here into the barn by myself and check on this, and I'm sitting there, I can't remember her name. I'm just going to call her like Desiree or something. I just remember when she said that, I'm over here going, bye-bye, Desiree, bye-bye. Sure enough, she did not make it. And I'm like, it's a nice story with a nice ending. I like the Climb trilogy a lot. Next on the list is Lux. Possibly higher than I should have it, but it falls here. I like it. I think Shudigatwa and Varen are putting in good performances here. I like how it addresses like the race issue, but it does it in a very organic way. It doesn't insult the Americans there, honestly. It doesn't insult the audience. And I like the fact that the couple people they run into who could have a problem with it don't. Matter of fact, the only time there is someone having an issue with it, it's not real. It's just fake. It's the ring-a-ding pulling the trick on the scene with the cop and the woman. There they are, which I knew was fake. I called it, I think, in my review for it because the way they were acting, and props to the actors, the cop and the mom who's looking for her son, because they're acting in this fake way that's a little exaggerated. I'm like, this isn't real. This is not real. This doesn't fit that woman's character at all. So when it was revealed to be a ruse, I'm like, I knew it. So the people they actually run into, which is mainly the actual mom and then the kid working in the store, they're both cool with it. They're okay. I like that. I appreciate that. I think Mr. Ring-a-Ding is done really well. I like his character design. Alan voices him fantastically. I love the cold open in the theater, and the cinematography of this episode is really well done. I like the bit in the opening in the booth when you see the light shining off the spoon, hitting the camera, the smoke going through the camera. That's really nice. And then him leaning out to the crowd. I liked that. I enjoyed that. And then I just liked the combination of animation with live action, which very much reminded me of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is a childhood movie I love. And finding out in the behind the scenes that one of the guys who worked on this episode also worked on Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That was just a lovely, lovely connection there that made my day. I didn't mind the meeting the fans like some people I know did. Even the hashtag RIP Doctor Who, that didn't bother me. Did it need to be there? No. It's definitely unnecessary. I do like the fact they survived. I like the idea of Doctor Who exists in a multiverse. There's always that possibility one of those multiverses, Doctor Who is a show. Just like one of the old Star Trek novels that collected short stories in it actually had an episode where Captain Kirk and the crew changed places with William Shatner and the actors, and William Shatner and the actors end up on the real Enterprise. I think that's one of those old James Blish collections from back in the day. So I'm fine with buying that, and I like the fact during the ending credits they're like, "We're still here." I was fine with it. I enjoy it. Again, it's not top tier Doctor Who by any means, but I liked it. It was enjoyable. Now, I've only watched it the one time. Plus, I've watched other reactors react to it, so I've gotten Cliff Note versions of it since. But I thought it was executed well. Next on the list is Doom Coalition 2, I believe it was. The Gift, which is part 3 of Doom Coalition 2. This one acts more as a bottle episode after the previous story, which might have been scenes from her life, I believe. And this one's much better than that one. The sound mixing in this one's much better. Where there's this one person who has this ability to do kind of supernatural things and wants to pass that gift on. There's even a scene where the doctor gets interrupted by something mid-haircut, so he's running out with half of a haircut. This one's really good. I don't want to get into spoilers on this one because this is one I really think people should listen to themselves. I like it because, a lot of times you kind of guess where a story's going. This one takes a lot of different turns. It's really hard to predict what it's going to do next, and I like when stories do that. And so I definitely don't want to talk about this so much, but it deserves where it's placed on the list. At the very least, it deserves where it's placed on the list. It's a good one. Next on the list is Nightmare of Eden. Again, could be a little too high. Nightmare of Eden is arguably the weakest story of Season 17 for me. I do think this is the first appearance of Season 17 on the list. I do enjoy this story. I don't dislike any of Season 17, to be clear. I think they're all good stories. I love Season 17. I love the style of humor in it. Interesting to see a Doctor Who story that's kind of talking about the danger of drugs, but it pulls it off well. I think the guest cast in it are enjoyable, except for that one guy who's doing that weird accent. You know the one I'm talking about. I don't have to explain it, with the funky glasses. I don't know quite what accent he's going for. Is that like supposed to be a German accent because he's evil or something? I don't, which isn't an assumption I would make. It just seems like an assumption the actor would make. I don't quite, the director should have been like, hey, come here, hey, yeah, that's not working, let's not do that. I heard Nightmare of Eden was a huge problematic production. I think Nightmare of Eden is the production that made Graham Williams decide to quit. I think Tom Baker was a handful to work with. I think it was Nightmare of Eden that the director and Tom Baker hated each other. Like, I think the director quit or something. I forget the exact story, but I hear it was a really troubled production. The budget looks dreadful. Let's just be honest. The ship does not look good. The original model work does not look very good. The mandrel design, the design itself I'm fine with, but it doesn't work in the overlit sets. You could have done the mandrels in a way. If this episode had come out during the Hinchcliffe era, they would have used the lighting differently. You would have shown them more in shadow, I feel like. I feel like they would have been made more threatening. You could have made the mandrels look more threatening, but just running around in those overlit hallways, they lose the threatening factor to the point of kind of coming across as camp. Now, the updated effects for this story on the Season 17 box set do help, especially the external space shots, but some of the other stuff, like K9's laser, they do help, and that is my preferred method of watching it. But I enjoy the performances in it, especially from Lala and Tom. I think they're great. And then I do like the ending, how the Doctor traps him at the end. Again, he wins using his brain. I like that. So, yeah, it just kind of deserves to go here. It's a solid C-tier story. Next on the list, we have the first appearance of the third Doctor, which I think is the only Doctor left that hadn't had an appearance, well, up to now. I think we've covered all of the other Doctors in some form or another. I like Claws of Axos too. That's the thing. The third Doctor is the one Doctor to me that, speaking from TV episodes, has never had a bad story. Like, all 24 of his stories are some level of good. All of the other Doctors at least have one bad story. Even Tom has Power of Kroll, which you guys know I'm not a fan of. I'm not really a big fan of the Leisure Hive either. I don't feel like John has any bad stories. Claws of Axos is probably my least favorite Pertwee story, but it's still enjoyable. C tier. Low C tier maybe, but C tier. I like some of the stuff going on in it. Like, I like the design of the Axons when they're in their monster form, or their crinoid form, if you want to call it that. And I like the FBI guy who's tracking the Master down. I feel like the actor playing him is really good. I love the choreographed scene when he's fighting his duplicate. They pull that off really well, considering, this is a story from the 70s, so you can't just CGI, his face on and make it look like they're both there. They have to use, camera angles and stunt doubles properly to pull that off. And I feel that is done very successfully. I completely buy it's, him fighting a duplicate of himself. I think they do that really well. I like the Master in this, except for, it's interesting, I take that back. It's interesting for me because this is the first time you really see the Master having to work on the fly. In the sense that in Terror of the Autons and The Mind of Evil, he's working to a plan he's laid out, like a grand plan. He's laid out, he's had time to set it up, he's had time to put it into action and tweak it where needed. So he's working to an established plan, where this is the first time where you really get the impression he's having to really think on his feet and act on the fly and act under pressure. And again, Delgado pulls that off, and as Delgado always does. He's really, really good here. I'm not a big fan of the Axon's design when they're in their gold statue mode that much. It's just, I mean, it looks very alien, I'll give them that, but it doesn't do much for me. And I don't like the design of the outside of their ship. The interior of their ship's very alien, I'll give that props. Much like Terror of the Zygons would be later. But the outside of it's a little uninteresting. And the guy playing, Mr. Chin, is that his name? I like that I hate him. The actor playing that does a good job making me hate him. And I like the fact that that whole speech the third Doctor gives of, England for the English, or whatever it is. Basically shoving the guy's prejudices in his face. I enjoyed that. Something very relevant today, honestly. Again, the story itself's not all that. It's just kind of a sea-level story for me. But it has things I like and things I don't. But hey, how impressive is it that we're literally almost halfway up the list. Not quite, but almost, before we reach any Pertwee stories. That's a testament to how good the Pertwee era as a whole is. Next on the list is A Good Man Goes to War. I like this one. This one's fun. I like the action. I like the build-up. Matt Smith is great in this. Our guest cast is great in this. I mean, my one nitpick is I wish he had brought back other people. This would have been a great opportunity to bring back, other characters, the Doctor, who owe the Doctor favors over the years, people from the classic series. You could have had, I know Nicholas Courtney was probably in bad health by then, but you could have had Brigadier Bombera back, and her husband, the knight, hopefully her husband, I don't know, the knight who was with her. You could have had several other people that the Doctor, who would come to the Doctor's aid. So instead, just basically pulling people from the Matt Smith era, there's always a problem in my mind with that, because there's plenty of other people who would have come. And obviously the show can't get them because money and budget and time, and how do you give all these people... I get that in my head, but there's still that part of me that in universe isn't quite buying it. Now, I like it. The scene when the one soldier loses his head in the box and how the monks create the people. Just the idea of the monks is fascinating to me. The headless monks. I like Matt Smith when he pretends to be one. He's like, I'm already here. 2 minutes and 53 seconds to me upon get your coat, or whatever he says. I love that. I like how, his speech about Captain Runaway or good men don't have rules, now is not the time. Matt Smith's on fire on this. And then how he gets tricked at the end and everything looks lost. The reveal about who River is. All of that is done really well. The episode is shot really well. The scene when the Doctor's with the female soldier that's dying that helped them. His speech to her, she was very brave, and they're always brave. And the bit when the Doctor knows she's going to die, and he tells her that, you helped my friends, thank you, thank you. I like that. It's a really good performance, and a really good mid-season finale. Next on the list is Planet of the Daleks, reaching our next Pertwee story. I knew these would be close together because they kind of go back and forth between technically which one is my least favorite Pertwee. They do jump around a bit. But I do think I like Planet a little bit better. One of my lesser Dalek stories, but one, the set for it's really good. The jungle set looks really nice. Again, good performances. And it's got Bernard in it, who of course was also one of the Time Lords in the War Games, played the Chancellor in Deadly Assassin. I love when he shows up in Doctor Who. I think he's a good fit for the show. He's got that cool, commanding voice. He's a good actor. I like the rest of the Thals as well. The invisible people being there just kind of seems like they're there. And the fact that they're invisible, but they wear the cloaks, just seems like budget saving. We'll call them an invisible and throw this little cloak over them. That'll save some of the budget. And then how you have that excellent cliffhanger when the Doctor's using the spray can and it's revealed to be a Dalek, just like, Daleks! I love that cliffhanger. It's not much of a cliffhanger in the sense that we know there's going to be Daleks. It's in the title. It's another one of those where so many of the classic Doctor Who Dalek stories have Dalek right in the title, but the episode 1 cliffhanger is the reveal of the Daleks, which, for the characters in the show, it's a shock, but for us, we're like, holy crap! This story called Planet of the Daleks has Daleks in it! I had no idea. Although I do still love that cliffhanger, because I just love Pertwee's reaction and the way he says the line Daleks. I do. And then they try to do the invisibility thing, and then that's almost completely abandoned after that. So there's definitely some waste there for me. But again, I love that set design. Also, this is one of the rare occasions where I think I prefer the original effects, but only at times. There are times in this story where I think the updated effects look better. There are times I think the original effects look better. It depends on that particular effect. I think the episode 1 cliffhanger looks way better with the original effects. That kind of gold tint to it. It doesn't look as good with the updated effects. But then the scene in like episode 3 or so around there, when the Dalek comes into the room, when the Doctor and the Thal are captured, and it shows the viewpoint of the Dalek, like first-person view from the Dalek, looks better than the updated version. When they see all of the eyes in the forest, probably looks better in the updated version. The shots of the TARDIS landing, I don't know if I have a preference. I go back and forth on that between which one looks better. They're both fine, honestly, in that situation. The scene when the Doctor sees all the Daleks stationary through the hole, I think looks better in the original. So whether I watch it with the original effects or the updated effects, just depends. Well, I'm always going to watch episode 1 with the original effects because I think the cliffhanger looks better. Episodes 2, 3, and 4, it just depends on my mood. Next on the list, and this is another one I question whether I should have it this high, although I know some people would have it higher, is Enemy of the World. I never like in Doctor Who when, the main actor's playing multiple characters for no reason. I've talked about this before, like I did in The Massacre. I don't really like when there's another character that just happens to look like the Doctor or a companion in the case of Black Orchid, unless there's a good reason for it. Meglos gets away with it because it's an actual plot point. Meglos is purposely disguising himself as the Doctor. That works, and that's why of all of the stories that kind of do that, Meglos is by far my favorite. Meglos, much further up the list. Very underrated story. This one, again, it's just a coincidence, and I don't really like that. That being said, it also gives us the opportunity to watch Troughton steal the show. I mean, Troughton kind of always steals the show, but you got Troughton basically playing 4 parts here. Because he's playing the Doctor, he's playing Salamander, he's playing the Doctor pretending to be Salamander, which is different, and at the end he's playing Salamander pretending to be the Doctor. Again, slightly different. And it goes to show that how Troughton is just such a phenomenal... He really is one of the best actors to ever play the Doctor. He is phenomenally good. Also, I love the cook. Is he only in episode 3? But I love the cook. He's awesome. He's great. And then the plan using the seismic activity is a pretty neat plan. Wonder if they'll be able to do that in the far-off year of 2018. That being said, I don't quite get into this one the way some people do. Some people herald it as like, when it got... I know it used to have a bad reputation, then it got recovered, and it went... I don't quite think it's... I think it's a C-tier story for me, honestly. But I do enjoy it. I think I've watched it twice now, and while I enjoy it, it's not, like, memorable. There's not, like, these moments in it I'm like, that's an iconic moment. That doesn't really happen much. Now... The one iconic moment I can think of is when Salamander at the end and the Doctor are in the TARDIS and they're face-to-face with each other at this angle. I'm going to kill you. That's neat to me just because that kind of shot at the time had to be difficult to pull off where you have both of them in frame. It's not like today where, it's an easy effect of having duplicates face off like, Kirk facing the shapeshifter in Star Trek VI. That's something that's done easily now, but for 66, 67, whenever Enemy of the World aired, having both of them in frame, that had to be a difficult shot. So I like the fact they were able to pull that shot off. I respect that, because I think that was pretty impressive for the time. But yeah, I'm not enamored with it like some people. Enemy of the World is just not a story that I'm like, ooh, I need to watch Enemy of the World again. Where I am other stories like, I need to watch Power of the Daleks, Macra Terra. I love Season 4. Season 5 is... just a little more underwhelming for me. Anytime people are like, Season 5 is my favorite Troughton season, which, to be fair, it is a lot of people's. I see that a lot. I'm always over here going, why? Yes, Web of Fear is great. Tomb of the Cybermen is good, but overrated. But why? So this story is just kind of middle of the road for me, personally. Next on the list is Doom Coalition 3, The Crucible of Souls, which is the fourth and final part of Doom Coalition 3, which ends off on a really good cliffhanger that sets up Doom Coalition 4, which is the final Doom Coalition set. So we have all sorts of things going on here. The 11, of course, being back. The Doctor finds out there's a traitor in the Time Lords that he doesn't see coming. But I can't remember if it's Liv or Helen figure it out. One of them figures it out. And basically, there's a whole bunch of stuff that ends there. River is stuck with the traitor at the end of the episode, so we don't know what's in store for her. And the Doctor, the cliffhanger ends with the Doctor, Helen, and Liv sent to the future, but it's a destroyed future, a future where nothing exists. It's been destroyed, and they're stuck in basically a lifeboat. It's a really good cliffhanger to the box set to set up the final box set. And I really enjoyed this one. There's a reason why it's ranked here. Next on the list is The Wheel in Space. This is an underrated story. It might be the weakest Cybermen story of the 60s, I would say. But the 60s is the best decade for the Cybermen. And it still gets the Cybermen right, unlike, say, the modern series sometimes, where they're just kind of a generic army. Cybermen are very dangerous and deadly, and this story gets that. Also, they still have their mind control abilities, which they seem to lose after the 60s, after this story, really. Which I like, where they can hypnotize people like that. Now, one of the reasons this is so high is, of course, due to the TARDIS Time Girl animation by Iz and Steve Skinner. Anytime I talk about The Wheel in Space, I have to mention their animation, because their animation is a large part of why I enjoy the story as much as I do. Now, the first time I watched the story, I did watch it with the surviving episodes and the Loose Cannon Telesnap Recon. And even then, I thought it was underrated. It was still an enjoyable story. But with the Iz and Steve Skinner animation, they do such a good job at capturing the look of the story, the look of the surviving episodes, that I feel like their animation marries well with the surviving episodes. This, of course, is a 6-parter. Episodes 3 and 6 survive. And it unlike some of the other animations that takes liberties, to be fair, some of those animations need to take liberties, some of the completely missing animations, whereas some of the others take liberties, like Fury from the Deep, though, where it doesn't work, or Abominable Snowmen, where some of it works, some of it doesn't. I like the Abominable Snowmen animation overall, though. I like that this matches, because not only do you have a third of the story complete, you also have the final episode complete, which is a big deal. And I like the look, how it matches. To me, the likenesses match a lot, too. The faces, I think they get the faces really good. I like how it works well in a 3D environment. And that really gives me a way of watching a pretty complete version of this story. Naturally, I would love to have the missing episodes recovered and see the original episodes. I'm sure Iz and Steve would as well. But their animation cannot be understated, as it definitely does bump this up further. This would be lower down the rankings without it. While still enjoying it, it would be lower down the rankings. I like the story well enough. It's not perfect. It's a little weak in places. I like the guest cast. Also, the commander kind of going stir crazy. I don't really know why there's an explanation for that, unless it's just the pressure of command or whatever. I mean, the original Star Trek captains were always losing it. And I like the one actress, the kind of blonde one, the one that gets killed. Although there's another blonde one in there too. She's pretty good. They're both really good. And then the guy who gets mind controlled, the kind of engineer guy who gets killed. It's a shame he got killed. I liked him. Fraser's putting in a good performance. It's a nice introduction to Zoe. Patrick, of course, is always putting in a good performance. And I like how episode 1's kind of its own thing. When Jamie and the Doctor are on the ship, it's kind of its own episode. It's kind of its own thing before everything really kicks off at the very end of that episode and really in episode 2. And it does a good job of having Troughton sidelined without it hurting the story. Like sometimes when the Doctor's missing for an episode, it feels like a gaping hole. It doesn't in this one. because we know Patrick was on holiday. But you know, him being unconscious fits, and so it never feels problematic to me. I enjoy this one, and I am glad that the final episode does survive. That's a big deal for me. I like this one. Next on the list is Doom Coalition 4, Stop the Clock, which is part 4. This is the final part of Doom Coalition, the final episode of the final box set. And it moves like that. It's just going. Because it's wrapping everything up. You're on Gallifrey, and so you have the 8th Doctor facing down with the 11. And not just the 11, but the Sonomancer, Kalira, and of course the Traitor as well. And you have... My biggest gripe is that River's not in it, simply because she was in so many of the other episodes. I kind of need to know what happened to her, because she kind of got absorbed into the Matrix, and then we don't know what happened to her. But it's a great resolution. You can kind of see it coming, but it is a good resolution. And then I just like that it's constantly moving. It never gets slow. The sound mix is really good on it. It's entertaining. It's action pumped. It keeps you, I don't know if I want to say on the edge of your seat, but it keeps you, it keeps you invested. That's a good way to put it. It keeps you interested in what's going on. It was a very pleasing conclusion to this range, which of course is 4 box sets at 4 stories apiece. At 16 stories, it ends on a high for me. And I like that. So Doom Coalition overall ranks pretty good to me. I mean, it has its hit and misses, but the fact they did stick the landing really well, it ends pretty good for me. And next on the list is the Wrath of, is it Eucor? I can't remember how you pronounce it. This, of course, is the first Barbara Benedetti film. I really like this. Now, I talked about before that I really like Barbara Benedetti's Doctor. She's, of course, the first female Doctor in any medium, all the way back in 1984. And she's very good in the role. I like her Doctor a lot. This one probably looks the best. Keep in mind, these are all 4 of her stories are fan projects. This one has been remastered in HD. You can find the original version of it on YouTube. You can also find the HD version of it on YouTube. And I went back and watched the HD version, having seen the regular version before. And it's interesting going from the HD version of it to the non-HD version of the other 3 stories, one of which is still higher up on the list. And it's such a change in quality. And I really do wish the other 3 could get remastered. Well, especially the second one, because I love the second one. It's my favorite of the 4. But I think Broken Doors, the 4th one, could use it too. But it looks so much better in HD. I like this one. My favorite shot of Barbara Benedetti is from this story. I think it's a pretty good story. I think the effects, again, 1984 fan film, I think they're pulled off pretty well. I like the dynamic between the Doctor and her new companion. They get on well. Little things she does, like when she talks to him, she kind of pats him on the shoulder. And like one time when she's trying to get the TARDIS or something to work, she smacks it. Like she goes in and it doesn't quite want to work. She walks out, smacks it with her umbrella, and goes back in and it works. It's so Doctor-like. Also, she has an umbrella before the 7th Doctor does, knowing the 6th Doctor had one too. I like Barbara. I enjoy this story. It really is, I think, one of the best fan films. And it's a fun watch. I definitely recommend checking out the HD version of it. And that's where we're going to stop for today. I want to know what you think of the video series so far and what you thought of the ones we talked about today. Comment down below and let's talk about it. All the other fun stuff that's down in the description of the video. The P.O. box is down there if anyone wants to send anything for me to look at. Any Big Finish stuff you want me to check out. Any of the standard edition sets you'd like to send me. I still want to get Day of the Triffids. Is that how you call it? Triffids? It's not Doctor Who, but another. Everyone says the Day of the Triffids. Either the show or the book. I've heard it's based off a book. I'd love to read the book. Either of that or the show. I'd like to check that out. If anyone wants to send that, I also, of course, would love to get more standard edition sets. Season 22 should be in soon. Simon sent that. Links to the Amazon wishlist are down there. Links to the Amazon UK wishlist are down there as well. My mic kind of went blank for a second. Links to the Patreon are down there. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons: Colin Coney, Unknown289, Androzani Major, and Finn Perkins. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. Most importantly, thank you for watching.